Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Joshua Nipper, the owner of Nipper Fence Company. Now, have you ever wondered when is it time to replace your fence? Well, in today's video, that's what we're going to look at. We're going to show some pictures of fences that needed replaced that failed due to many different reasons, and we're going to go over those reasons. And you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to give you 3 pro tips on how to avoid these failures. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification button so you know when the next video drops. So without further ado, let's get going. Hi, I'm Joshua Nipper. After 26 years of Army service, I found a new mission, creating strong, beautiful wood fences that transform homes. Follow our channel as I share expert tips, inspiration, and the passion that drives everything we do. Okay, so you have a fence that is looking old.
Old. How old?
And rough, and you're not sure if you can restore it or if you need to replace it.
Replacement?
Well, that's what we're going to look at, and I'm going to show you what to look for and to have confidence in knowing that yes, this fence needs replaced, or no, I think it can be restored. So let's look at some pictures here of some real life fences over this past season that I replaced, and we're going to go over the reasons why those fences needed replaced, and some of them could have been restored if they didn't have a single point of failure that we're going to look at here. So this first picture that you're going to see is just a trailer full of old fence. What I want to point out is if you watch my last video, I talked about getting enough stain to cover the bottom of the picket. And if you look here on this picture, the bottom of the picket is starting to rot pretty good. Pretty substantial rotting on there. And that's why I always say you want to leave that picket off the ground. So if you have a wood fence currently and you notice that the pickets are up against the ground, or if you stain your fence recently and you're not sure if you got the bottom of the picket, you might go investigate that and see if you need to apply some more stain to the bottom of the pickets, because it'll just suck up the moisture from the ground into the wood there and just start rotting. Now these 2x4s on this fence, those 2x4s are pretty solid still. So if this fence would have had regular maintenance over the years, it probably would have lasted longer. This fence, according to the homeowner, was 14 years old. So it took a beating for sure. And if it would have had a little better maintenance over the years, I think it probably would have lasted a lot longer. Now this next fence here, I want you to take a look, and this fence was stained. It did have a stain on it. However, there's a lot of issues going on here. The first issue that I see is it wasn't put together properly. These are fence panels that somebody put up, and fence panels are just known to be put together cheap. That's why I build all my fences on site. I do not use panel fencing. And if you see here, the reason why you don't want to use panel fencing, because these are not your actual 2x4 size railing they have there. Those are actually a smaller cut down rail, so the company that makes these panels can save money. So you're not getting the strength with these fences. Also, take a look at the top pickets here, how they're twisting and warping, and they're not consistently straight all the way down the fence line. And that's simply because if you notice, you have a good 12 inches from this rail to the top of the picket. And that's why here at Nipper Fence, we only maximum go 7 inches. We we typically only go 6 inches above the rail, maximum 7 inches, depending on the application. But we essentially bring this rail up so you have less twisting and warping at the top of the fence here. So there's really, the way this fence was built, there's really nothing you can do to this fence to make it look better, unless you start adding a bunch of extra material to try to straighten some of those out. And even then, you're going to end up with more cracking and warping. So we'll go to the next picture here. This is the other side. And you can't see it on this picture, but the fence posts are starting to rot and it's starting to lean a little bit. And even down here on the bottom, you see the bottom rail here, and then the pickets are starting to twist at the bottom. So if you're inspecting your fence at home, you might want to look at that and see if your fence was built properly. If your fence was built properly, you'll have about 6 inches of picket above the top rail, and you'll have no more than 7 inches down here on the bottom part. And the reason why we do that is to keep these treated pickets and cedar pickets from twisting and warping. The less area that you leave for your pickets to twist and warp, the better off you're going to be down the road. So we'll go to the next picture here. So if you watched my last video, I talked about cutting back the vegetation on your fence, and this is an actual fence, a customer's fence that he just let go and he didn't maintain over the years. Especially during if you got this vine looking vegetation growing in your garden area, you got to keep that trimmed off, because all you're doing is you're just ruining that fence. You're not going to that fence is not going to last the life that it should if you don't keep that trimmed off. And this is a picture of the side of that same fence. So the other part of that fence that you're seeing there is actually on the neighbor's side. So the neighbor kind of let his vegetation grow up on his neighbor's fence. So if you see that happening, you might want to have a conversation with your neighbor to say, hey, let's keep that trim back, or that's why it's a good idea to sometimes keep a mowing path off your property line, so you know that you can maintain your own fence line without having too much interference with the neighbor. All right, on this fence here, this type of fence is actually could be fixed with a wood restoration if it wasn't for one issue, and the issue being the posts. The posts are just rotten to the point where they're not. This fence ain't gonna last. You'll see some rotting going on down here at the post, and that's because it's in concrete. You can see some of the concrete starting to frost heave out of the ground right there. But the grayish look that you see on this fence, it can be washed off and with a good cleaner, good wood stripper. It can, and you got some growth here, some mildew, some mold growing on it, and that could be cleaned off and freshened up. But the problem is, if you let it get that bad, you're going to have other issues. And another problem with this fence here, why it couldn't be restored, was the 2x4 rails you see here was totally rotten. So just because your fence is gray doesn't mean that it can't be restored if there ain't other issues going on with it. So just keep that in consideration if you have a fence starting to look a little gray, a little rough. A lot of times we can bring a chemical in, do a soft wash, and it'll brighten your fence right up. This is just a picture of that same fence, different angle. All right, here's a picture of a fence that you can see. These posts were put in concrete and they just rot right there at the ground level, and the fence just blew over. There was really nothing more you can do with it. Some of these boards right here are still good boards from on the gate side that could have been saved if you had a strong post keeping that fence up. Just another picture of the same fence. All right, so on this one, you can see here this concrete where the post is starting to frost heave out of the ground. And you can't see it from this angle, but this post is starting to rot and it is very weak and it's ready to be blown over at any point in time. So, and the pickets are we could definitely save these pickets with a nice uh, soft wash with a power washer with a chemical wood cleaner. That would brighten this fence right up if you didn't have other issues going on with it. And again, it's the other side of the fence. Some of these posts down here were okay. They were still standing. They weren't leaning a whole bunch, but the problem was the top of the post, these railing, starting to rot completely through. And again, a little maintenance over the years would really alleviate a lot of these issues. Now this fence, I'll give you a second to look at this. And this is a good candidate to be restored, a total wood restoration, which would be come in and take a cleaner and spray it on there, let it sit, have a dwell time of roughly 10 minutes, and then soft power wash it off, and then put a wood brightener on there, and it would really bring that out. It would look really good. However, the problem we have here is, and if you had some time to look this photo over, you'll notice that we have a rotten wood post. It is totally rotten right here. It is ready to fall over. It rotted all the way through. So it's a shame because this fence could have been saved if they used a quality steel post for their fence. And here at Nipper Fence Company, that's what we use. We use a steel post, so you don't have to worry about that. So in the event that you just wanted to do a full restoration on your fence and not replace it, then with a steel post you have that option. With a wood post, you're just at the mercy of the wood. And unfortunately, once you put it in concrete, it starts the deterioration process. This is a fence that did get a stain put on it at least one time in its life, I would say. But it did not have the maintenance kept up with it over the years. And if this was the only issue with it, where the stain was starting to come off and it just needed reapplied, then that's no big deal. We come out and we clean it, we strip it, and we apply a new stain to it. And that fence could have been saved. However, if you look down the fence line here, the problem is the wood posts are rotting. So, and as you can see the concrete right here. These fence posts are frost heaved out of the ground, and that's what makes this fence move around to the point where it's going to make it look just look bad. So again, steel post would alleviate this issue right here. And it looks like it's probably got an issue here with the picket being broken. That's probably from a weed eater or a lawnmower hitting it and just breaking it, which, if that was the only issue, we can replace that picket, restain it, restain that fence and move on. But unfortunately, there's not much you can do with a fence with a rotten post. And then this fence right here is another good example of a fence that you can see some mildew and mold starting to form on this fence, but that is easily removed with a chemical and then a soft power wash off, and those boards would look brand new again. This fence is a 2-year-old fence, and it just started to fail after 2 years. And the reason why is because it was improperly installed, improperly put together. As you can see, they used a 4x4 post, but they only went 2 feet into the ground. And you really need to go below the frost line. But these fence posts were only put in right at the 2-foot mark. And if you also notice, you're missing a third rail here. So there's just a lot of problems with this fence, and it just failed. Within 2 years, it failed. So that's another reason to hire a professional. If you don't hire a professional, they don't understand the physics behind a fence, and this is what you're going to get. You're going to pay good money for a fence to fall over in 2 years. So this fence, I ended up saving I took these posts out, put steel posts in. So I ended up saving this fence for the homeowner. However, it's not a brand new nipper fence built fence.
Say what?
It is a fence that was fixed to stand up straight. And there really wasn't much more you could do with it other than tear it completely down and start from scratch. So let's take that in consideration whenever you are looking to get a fence put up. Make sure you're getting and if you want to do it yourself, a DIY, that's great. Just make sure that you're following the right way to put up a fence. That's really all there is to it. So I hope you guys got something out of these pictures, and you're able to go out and look at your own fence. Look at, if you have a wood fence and you're not sure if you should replace it or if you just need a wood restoration service done on it. Hope these pictures, I kind of explained the issues with them, so hopefully you have a better understanding of where you sit with your fence. And so I do have a couple pro tips for you to avoid all of these failures that you saw on those pictures. And the first tip is to basically use a good post, preferably a steel post. A steel post is not going to rot, in a few years. It's not going to suck in that moisture, and you're not going to have the issues with a steel post that you're going to have with a wood post. You're just not going to have that issue. And another tip: stain and maintain that the stain on a regular basis. So once you stain your fence, it doesn't mean that you're totally done with it. If you have a company come out and stain it and get on their maintenance plan so they can come out and reapply areas that need the stain reapplied to. It's just going to make your fence look better, and it's going to make it last longer. And then the third tip is perform regular maintenance. So, like that one picture with the vegetation that kind of really overtook the whole fence. Trim that back, do regular maintenance on your fence, keep the ground off your pickets. You know, just small stuff like that would really go a long way with having your fence last a long time. So I hope you got something out of that video. If you're new to the channel, I would really like it if you could like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps out a small channel like I have. So, and if you're in need of a fence, either a wood restoration or a full wood replacement fence, then please give me a call. My number is behind me, 260-797-4015, or you can go to my website, nipperfences.com. You find out more information there. So until next time. This is Nipper Fence Company reminding you that life is better when you know your boundaries.